4 years ago, God, I will call him Yahweh by his proper name, spoke to me and said, as I sent Samuel to place David, to anoint David to a political office, so I send the church in America to anoint Donald Trump, to anoint him for his office. God has always used the church to place the oil of anointing on those that have sacred work to do. To the ministers in America, you failed to recognize the anointing of God on Donald Trump. Even after the man was saved from 2 assassination attempts, possibly a third, you failed to recognize the anointing. But guess what? This week, you're going to want everybody around you to recognize your anointing. You're going to want your anointing to be honored because, after all, it should be. It comes from God. But you cannot demand honor for what you overlooked. I see many of you today saying, even now you remain in the spirit of foolishness by saying, he's just a man. No, he's not. He's an anointed man. That's not just a man. When a man is chosen for a specific work, and we're going to talk about what that specific work is here in just a minute. When a man is called and raised up with the touch of sacristy upon his life for a work to be done on behalf of the God of heaven, to bring into the earth what's in the heavens, and you fail to recognize that, you have failed to recognize God himself, and you are not worthy to demand the anointing to be honored on your life, preacher. You failed. For 4 years you mocked me. Many of you. For 4 years you said I shouldn't be bringing politics in the pulpit. But I've come to tell you, had we not brought politics in the pulpit, you would be dealing with hell in the world that would be unstoppable. You failed. You failed. You made fun of what you did not understand with your limited vision. You want everybody to recognize the anointing on your life. But my friend, Yahweh anoints both priest and king. You can't honor one without honoring the other. You failed. You scream you're a prophet because you can tell people their addresses. You scream you're a prophet because, just like a fortune teller, you can guess. No. A prophet is a voice of truth in a world of lies. Recognize the true prophetic. You failed, ministers. You failed. You made fun of the anointing of God. When I saw Donald Trump was anointed, I ran and jumped behind that man with everything I had. And do you know what happened? The windows of heaven opened over my life. Why? Because my grandmother raised me right. Let me tell you something. Lois Gatlin Terrell, my grandmother, she raised me to respect the anointing. Oh yeah, honey. I wasn't allowed to refer to a preacher who had been anointed with the oil of sacristy. I was not allowed to call that man by his first name. I was not allowed to ever speak an evil word. Not because he deserved it. Not because he was perfect. Not because he was worthy. But he was anointed. My grandmother would have washed my mouth out with soap had I ever spoken ill of any man that had been touched with the oil of the anointing for the office of the ministry. That's why the Bible said, speak not one word against the king, because if you do, the birds of the air will tell it. We must learn to recognize the anointing on imperfect men. And do you know what's so funny to me? Some of you poor, pitiful preachers, you get on here and say, God wouldn't anoint a man that talks like that in a locker room. My dear friend, you've gossiped worse than that in a private prayer room. How dare you act as if you are worthy of an anointing? How many conversations are you thankful was never recorded? Recognize the anointing on a man or woman's life. Donald Trump is God's anointed. You don't have to like him. You don't have to agree with him, but you better support him. Why? You're supporting God himself. I said it. Out of this mouth, I said what I just said. So many of you love God while not supporting the very ones that God has anointed. Half the ministry, I'm going to say 75% of the ministry, has no backbone. You shut your churches down during COVID. You're not worthy of the mantle of the anointing. You're a joke to your calling. You're scared to speak to the issues of the day. You're scared to call homosexuality degradation. You're scared to lose your 501c3, which you shouldn't even have to begin with. Listen, we must understand, we just came through 4 years when God gave his church an opportunity to anoint Donald Trump into office. And we did. A remnant, a small portion. Do you know why God raised up Donald Trump? Because God knows who America is. Now let me tell you why I would not give that honor to Joe Biden. The Bible speaks against usurping authority. There is legitimate authority, and then there is authority by deception that was usurped. You did not get it righteously or justly. We all know what happened in 2020. God was not going to let it go unpunished and uncorrected. So I want to say this to all ministers. You are called to speak to the world you live in, not the world you wished you lived in. And for those that say, we're not of this world, my dear friend, you are the light of this world. You were commanded not to hide that light under a bushel, but you were commanded to speak and ensure justice in the earth. In the book of Proverbs, we're commanded to speak up for justice. So while you're sitting over in the church, kumbaya, ignoring what happened in the last 4 years because you're afraid you might lose members, I want to give you my word. If you'll stand up for truth, people will send money to your mailbox that's not your members. They'll send it from Hong Kong. They'll send it from Malaysia. They'll send it from Australia. And in the last 4 years, I've had money come from the far corners of the earth that I never asked for. You know why? When you take a stand for God's anointed, I don't care how imperfect they are. Some of you seriously need to lower your expectations of what someone that's anointed is supposed to be like. Donald Trump is brash. I don't like how he drops the word H-E-double-L every time he's speaking. That's the way the man talks. I cannot be mad at God for whom God chooses without my permission. But here's what I can do. When I see a man dodging bullets centimeters from his brain, when I see a man that God raised up to stop Barack Obama. That's right. Guys, Joe Biden was not president. Kamala Harris was not running for president. This would have been the third term of Barack Hussein Obama. Satan raised up Barack Hussein Obama a decade ago and intended to destroy the very traditions and the values of Judeo-Christianity in America through Barack by fundamentally transforming our nation. And he did. And they were going for round number 3 to finish off the total degradation of our society, turning us into a socialist nation, turning us into a nation of globalism rather than nationalism, making us one of many like Babylon rather than one and done. The United States of America, there is no other like her on the face of the earth. She is modern day Israel. She is the lost tribes of Israel. Satan hates it when I say that, but I declare to the world, America, you don't know who you are, but I do, and that's why I've stood and fought for you, and that's why God raised up Donald Trump, because I know who I am. I know who America is. I know who Donald Trump is. We are not just some other nation. It is America first. There's a reason for that, because the last shall be first. And when you understand that the lost tribes of Israel was made last in the economy of God, well, here I go preaching. All right, have a good day.